Welcome back. This is Sports Chat, and we are live from the Musalia Mudavadi Center here at the Riverside Drive, and we are talking to one of Kenya's important leaders about his views on sports. And now we are going to talk about the sports infrastructure, what he thinks about it, and of course we'll move to AFC Leopards, one of the biggest clubs in East and Central Africa, and we'll be hearing what he has to say about AFC Leopards.
Tuscan, huh? Yeah. Hi, how are you? Asante sana. Let me now remove this since we are seated and I think we are at a safe distance.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that, because as you said, it's very important that we take those precautions.
Absolutely.
Now, just before we went to break, we were talking about sports infrastructure.
Yes.
Buhungu Stadium, one of the flagship projects of Kakamega County, and indeed for the Western Province, it stands out. But do you think Buhungu is enough, or what would you like to see happen?
Well, I think we must encourage investment in infrastructure, sporting infrastructure. And Buhungu remains under construction. I think the county government wanted it in phases. So we are watching as they do the phases. But clearly, it will not be enough. Going forward with the population levels that we are seeing, we have to admit that there has to be a clear strategy, maybe holistically and then cascaded again to the counties, so that we can have sufficient investment. But we've seen some improvements in areas like Kinoru Stadium. We've seen the one in Bomet. As we speak, we are seeing the Kamarini being repaired. We've seen some adjustments in the City Stadium here, and the renovation also in Nyayo Stadium. So clearly, there's something happening. Even in Mombasa, that has taken extremely long, by the way.
Yeah.
We hope they'll come to finish it. So it's important. So, but what is also needed here is that, because as you put this infrastructure in place, you must have a clear program in terms of the maintenance and operationalization of these facilities. So we also need to work out what would be the revenue stream that can be firm, that can be clear, regular, to be able to ensure that these facilities are being maintained. I'm sure you have seen, sometimes you go to the stadia and people have uprooted the seats. You go to these stadia and you find that the ablution facilities are in very bad shape. So clearly there must be a strategy that as you invest in these facilities, you also know how they're going to be kept. Then there must be accountability for the proceeds that go there, because they are supposed to maintain that facility but also support sporting facilities in the given counties.
Infrastructure has a direct bearing in talent development and identification. Now you look at places like Busia. There used to be a team called Busia Simba, by the way, in the Kenyan Premier League, but I think it's now defunct.
Yes.
Yeah, and would you say that it's now urgent that all leaders must come together and make sure that such places like Busia have proper infrastructure?
Yes, they do. But let me tell you, one of the experiences that people may not know about myself is that apart from being a staunch supporter of AFC Leopards, I was actually involved in having the first professional football team in Kenya, and this was the Volcano United.
You mean it?
Yes.
Volcano?
Yes, I was one of the founder members of Volcano United.
I didn't have that.
And when one of the things we found then was a lot of resistance from the established soccer management structures in the country at that time, because they didn't want to go professional. Now, that to me remains a big lacuna in Kenya, particularly if you're talking about soccer.
Yes.
And maybe other areas. We need to find a way of facilitating the laws to allow professionalism so that there is a clear mechanism to pay players. There's a revenue stream and they are paid. Because right now, a lot of the young men and women, literally, unless you're talking of the athletics, the others are dependent on the goodwill of their fans. They're dependent on the goodwill of the likes of Toskin and Musalia and others.
Say politicians, because are you...
No, it's not only politicians. When I say goodwill...
All our clubs now always want to go back to the politicians and, get something to run their affairs. And you just mentioned AFC Leopards, which you are a strong supporter. And AFC Leopards for so many years has been depending on politicians to survive.
That is the message I want us to try and eradicate.
Yes.
Let us find a way of getting the politicians out of the way. Let politicians be supportive in the context like other soccer fans and other soccer supporters.
Yes.
Okay, they should not look at it as a privileged position, that because you're a politician,
yes,
then it is a privileged position to support AFC Leopards or to support Gor Mahia or to support... No, that should not be it. We look at the number of clubs that are Premier League clubs in the UK.
Yes.
All right? Who owns those clubs? Who runs them? What is the management structure behind those clubs? How are investors brought into those clubs so that you have a sustainable arrangement to be able to buy players? And once you buy players, you can give him a livelihood for the duration that he's working for that club and playing, So these are the things that we need to figure out. Where are the gaps
but
in our law?
Since 1964, Mheshimiwa, FC Leopards being launched 1964, up to today, we've not been able to figure out how this club can...
No, but you see, this is the point I'm trying to make across. Let us revisit even some of the legal framework around soccer and help them. I gave you the example of Volcano. Because when Volcano was set up, and at that time we got a sponsor from Japan to help us, and we had people like the late Jerry Saura, who was one of the members. I was the treasurer of Volcano. Wow. At that time. And believe you me, the year that Kenya went highest in the All Africa
Games, 87
at Kasarani.
Yes.
Do you know 5 of the players who are playing for Kenya were actually from Volcano?
I remember Volcano came with a lot of force. I think it was Motokura, the company from Japan that came on board here.
Yes, so this is the point I'm trying to put across, that we need to go a notch higher. There are also players, there are also institutions here. We have Safaricom, one of the largest entities. They've been supporting rugby for some time. We have others, institutions like the breweries, you remember? They're very strong and all this. So what went wrong? What did we do? Did we affect the taxation regime in a manner that now moved them away from supporting talent? For instance, we need to ask ourselves, if these guys were to set up and have a fund that is supporting sports, they can choose which sport they want to. How can we give them a tax advantage? How can we make that tax deductible?
And so
that you can now have a sustainable arrangement to support soccer.
Exactly.
Or to support rugby, or to support volleyball, or even boxing, for that matter. So these are the things that I was saying. If we open up ourselves, and I know there's been an attempt through legislation to try and handle some of these things, it's just for us to go the full hog.
And I've just seen the other day, you were in the press and you announced that you are leading efforts to help AFC Leopards get back a piece of land that was granted to them by the government in the 80s. How far has that process gone now?
Well, they have paid. They've brought me a copy of the receipt because apparently they had not paid the stand premium, which was about 633,000. So I supported them. They've paid, so the processing is ongoing. But the journey has just started because subsequently now resources must be raised to start developing that stadia. So we can, if we work out well, have a program, an investment policy. And AFC Leopards, I talked to Dan Shikanda, they have made the development plan.
Yes.
They're looking at how to try systematically to raise resources. And I would want everybody who is a supporter to support it. But also we can look at other areas like I've said, is there something that we can do under legislation to encourage large corporate
to come in,
players to come in and support their effort? And I think we can do it.
One of the questions that fans keep asking me is that the leadership from Western Province, and make no mistake, FC Leopard is a national team, and it has support from Northeastern, Central, but then they keep asking questions about the leadership from Western Province, that it has not done enough to ensure that this club walks on its feet. But the other day I saw CS Eugene Wamalwa led efforts and helped the club to have a bus. You've come in to help and get the piece of land in place. You strongly believe that the politicians can lead this process and help this club to work?
No. Politicians, this club and its journey and its future must first begin with the management of the club. They're the ones who need to have a strategic plan, define it, and promote that strategic plan so that there's a buy-in from all Kenyans who love the game and who support the team. That is where we should be going.
Okay.
I can tell you it is not sustainable to imagine that a politician or two will underwrite any club in this country. I'll give you an example. When I was patron of AFC Leopards,
I remember those days.
I used to pay salaries for these players, and I can tell you it was not easy. They have families. They have to pay rent. They have to feed those families. They have to take care of their medical bills. The insurance, maybe it was not covering them. So there's got to be a very well thought out arrangement, but it should not be politically driven. It should be driven by the management of the club. And this is why I was telling Dan Shikanda that you have a challenge as the chairman of AFC with your team. You must find a way of making it attractive, making your policies attractive, so that people can come in and be supportive. The other very successful manager of AFC Leopards as chair was, of course, Alfred Sambo. Okay, but times have changed. Economic circumstances have changed. So we must provide different approaches to support this team.
I just hope that the chairman of AFC Leopards, Dan Shikanda, is listening to this, because the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi has told him that he's got the responsibility. The challenge is now upon him. And I think so far he's done his bit, because I've seen he's tried to rally all the leaders from Western Province to come to the rescue of the club. But as you say, the most important thing is the structure at the club. But people also look up to you to ensure that all those corporates come to the aid of FC Leopards.
Corporates make a decision on a clear plan. They make an analysis of the plan. They want to know is it a well-structured, is it a vision that they can invest in? That's how corporates will come into this. And this is why I say that it has to start with the team. We will encourage them, no doubt about it. But it is not supposed to be about politics.
Exactly.
Because corporates will also shy away. Because if they think it is all about politicians, whether it is right or wrong, the reputation is that if you put any resources somewhere where there are politicians, it will not be long before you realize there's a scramble and there's nothing left. All right? So I would not want to have AFC Leopards or Gor Mahia or Homeboys or any other team that we have today to be a team that is seen from a political perspective. That is not good for them.
That's a very important, powerful message.
Yeah, we should see it as sports, and it should be packaged as sports, and that is how corporates can now get attracted. Because corporates will want also accountability. If they're supporting you, they also have to answer to their shareholders. And if indeed it is something that reflects, that we can put into law so that they can benefit, they can have it as a tax benefit if they support. Say, for instance, if they pump 200 million into AFC Leopards on an annual basis, assuming it is Safaricom or assuming it's whatever, if they can do that, what are we putting in place for it to be a tax benefit
to the corporate?
To the corporate. You know, so these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves.
Sure.
And if we get it right, then you'll find that you will not have a shortage of sponsors for a lot of sporting activities in this country, whether boxing, whether cricket, whether rugby, whether swimming, okay, and even athletics.
Actually, you just mentioned boxing, and as we wind up this conversation, Kenyans are still waiting for another gold medal in boxing at the Olympics. And people say the only gold medal that we've had in this country is from Wangila Napunyi, was apparently from Busia, Western Kenya. Do you think we can get back to that level where we can produce another Napunyi Wangila?
Well, boxing? Yes, we can. Unfortunately, it was quite some time back, and he's no longer with us. But I can tell you that it is possible. It is possible. We've seen good talent. We even saw the lady boxer.
There was Congestina,
Zarika. So we can produce this. And even there were heavyweights like Akasamba and even Ruben Dolo.
Yes, Ruben
Dolo still has the build, but I don't know whether he has the flair anymore, but he's there. So when you look at it, you can get these guys, we can nurture them. And as I said, the sky is the limit. It's just that I would encourage the Ministry of Sports to work more aggressively, so that they can have a bigger share of resource allocation from the national budget to help them activate the talent that is lying out there.
Mheshimiwa, it's been a pleasure, talking to you, picking up some, nuggets of wisdom of what needs to be done to ensure that sport is productive for our Kenyan youth. Right. And we just wish you well, so that when you are at those positions, you'll be able to put in place those policies.
Well, I look forward to it, because we want our sportsmen to be there. We remember how our athletes have given us a lot of pride.
Yes.
That is important. My only caution to them is that around what we are beginning to see as increased cases of, or if not increased, more frequent cases of doping allegations, whether they are right or wrong. I think it is something that needs to be looked at very, very critically.
Sure.
Is it real, or is it a strategy to undermine the advantage that Kenya has always had in this particular field? But whatever the case, I think the sporting authorities need to go deep into it so that we don't undermine one big advantage we've had,
Yes.
and that is in the field events. We have been very good there. Field and track events, we should not be let down.
Okay.
You imagine a situation where perhaps, even as I said, some of the scouts or some of the people who come, do they all come with clean hands?
That is a question.
Or are they also Trojan horses
Okay.
coming into the Kenyan athletic scene with the sole intent of discrediting it? So that is something to look at.
Thank you very much. That has been Musalia Mudavadi. We've been live from the Musalia Mudavadi Center here at the Riverside Drive, and we've really benefited personally. But of course, I know the sports world will also look back and say, well, we wish him well, so that at one point he'll make sure that he actualizes that. And AFC Leopards fans, you've heard it from the staunch supporter himself. Until next week, I've been Robin Toskin. Now it's time I take you back to our studio, Michael Gitonga and Trix Ingado.
Thank you very much, Robin Toskin, for always ensuring that Matters Sports, we are up to speed and up and covered. And, well, that brings us to just about 10 minutes to 9 o'clock, time for us to wind up. Earlier on, we had asked you the question, do you think it was a bad idea for the government to lift some of the COVID-19 restrictions that were in place? And we've had